Hello, welcome to...
It's the death battle
Yes!
He fucked it up immediately, but it's
Best
fine.
intro to Death Battle Cast.
The Death Battle
ever.
Cast.
Yeah.
I'm Ben. I'm still recovering from being hella sick, but doing okay. How are you guys?
Oh, God.
Hello.
No.
Welcome to my esteemed panel of...
What are you doing?
You're not guests.
I'm-
Like, we have one guest, but you guys are regulars. So, my esteemed panel,
Yeah.
regulars and one guest.
Let's do it quick.
Hey, I'm Chad. I play Boomstick.
Hey, I'm Andrew. I'm a sound designer and formerly cool guy.
Formerly cool. I like
Formerly.
that. I'm
He's
Sam.
already-
I also am a formerly cool guy. That's,
So you guys
we
passed
met
their
in
prime.
cool school. We both flunked. It was tough.
It ends today. He's
Yeah.
just preparing himself.
Gotcha.
No.
Well, real quick,
Although
thank
there's
you.
leather on my jacket, which helps.
There you go. Thank you to our sponsors for this week's episode, Audible and Quip, longtime sponsors of us, which is awesome.
I'm still laughing at the cough. Oh, my God.
That was actually not intentional.
I know. I saw it. I saw it.
I was
saw you
thinking
tense
about
up.
doing it, and then I was like, nah, I won't do it. And then it just naturally happened. But if you haven't seen, we just released a new episode of Death Battle, Benton versus Green Lantern. We'll be talking about that a little bit. Andrew, it's great to have you. I don't think we've ever had you on the cast before.
Nope, first time.
So, and as he
My
said,
first
Andrew
rodeo.
is a sound designer, so he did some of the audio mix for this episode, which came out fucking awesome, I think.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. And so we've been working with you for a little while. How many death battles have you worked on at this point?
Let's see. I did Warrior versus DDD. I did Shazam versus Marvel. So I guess 3 at this
This
point.
is your third one?
Yeah,
Cool,
working on
cool.
a 4th one now. So
Yeah,
that should be good.
Good job. Way to not do that. I was a little tense. I was like, and blank. Oh, no.
Well, we have announced the next one. at the end
I'm
of the
getting
episode.
so lost on which one's announced because,
I know.
like, we're done writing 11. So
Yeah,
and
we're
this
really
was,
far
this
ahead.
was 6, right? So it's like I don't know which one's next. Like I just know we've wrote. There's like 5 that are finished.
So just so that
Yeah.
we don't like go into some downward spiral, the next one we just announced was Weiss versus Mitsuru.
Okay, great. That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. I was like,
Well,
good.
no, it's crazy. This is the most ahead we've ever been on the show, and it's just been insane. Like, because we've had so many scripts to voice, and we've been so far ahead. There were times that we voiced a script that was ahead of. It was like the one after the next one,
Yeah.
before we versed the next. It was like, so yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm just like, all right, let me make sure.
It's really nice having like a dedicated team who everybody knows what they're doing.
Yep.
Like Death Battle is such a weird, complicated show that before we joined Rooster Teeth, it was just like this. It was chaos putting a single episode together. There's so many elements that go into it and so many things that could easily go wrong very quickly. So having just like a very, very tiny team on it, it's really hard to pull off.
Yep.
That's why you'll see a lot of... There are plenty of other like YouTube channels out there who try to do something similar to Death Battle, and some of them succeed and do very well, and others like start, and then they just kind of have to stop. Because it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
really hard to do something like this. And I absolutely commend every smaller YouTube channel that makes something like this with a very small team, because that's where we used to be
And it
for a
was-
long time.
And it sucked.
I know that pain. I know how difficult it is. So good on you guys for really sticking to it and making it work. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and now we get to do things like not only has like our writing team expanded, which has been super helpful, but now we have actual like professional sound designers working
Yes.
on our stuff, as opposed to like grab Google video game sound and then
Or
drop
like
it.
GameSounds.com.
forcing Noel to work on it because it's like, Noel, we just need sound design.
Right.
Please help us.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, so thank you, Andrew, for making it sound awesome. Let's actually talk about that process for a little bit. Just a heads up, we are going to spoil Ben 10 versus Green Lantern. We're going to be talking about the episode in depth. Normally what we do at this point is like a Q&A session, and we take like questions from comments and stuff, kind of answer them. I kind of wanted to change that a little bit because we have changed Death Battle Cast's release schedule. We're now recording this the day after it comes out, but it's still first exclusive right now. So we're actually going to do Q&A next week. I also want to check in with the writer before we do all this and make sure that we're getting all the questions correct and we can really get into the meat of the questions rather than having to like put something together real fast. So we'll get into Q&A next week. Today I really wanted to just talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff. And I know some of us really want to talk about Game of Thrones, so we'll get to that as well. But that'll be at the end of the show.
Yeah.
We're gonna
We're
mix some things around.
just mixing everything up. Andrew's here, and he screwed up the whole process. So we're not going to answer any questions. We're going to be doing the community death battle before we talk about Game of Thrones, in case you don't want to have any spoilers.
Yes.
So it's going to be a whole thing.
But yeah, we'll do Q&A next week. So if you're curious about that, that's why we're not going into questions right now. But making this episode, so first of all, Ben 10 versus Green Lantern is not the number one suggested matchup for Ben 10, which is usually not what we do. We usually do go for the number one suggestion. But the number one suggestion for Ben 10 was Beast Boy.
Was it? I thought it was Danny Phantom.
It's Beast Boy and Danny Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
He was like number 2, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe kind of tied with Green Lantern. It was somewhere around those lines.
I feel like it's all either way. It's green. Like green is the color. They're just like so many fights are dependent on like. Well, they're the same color, so they should battle. And I'm like, well, okay.
Well, Beast Boy does have the transformations.
Yeah.
But Beast Boy transforms into normal fucking animals, while Ben 10 is transforming into crazy aliens. Like
so
the vast
Ben 10
majority
would just destroy.
Absolutely.
That's a
Beast Boy
one-sided
stands
fight.
no fucking chance. And it just wouldn't be an interesting fight. Like, it might be fun to watch them transform every so often, like the first half of the fight or whatever. But as soon as Ben pulls out one of his stronger aliens, it's like, well, it's over. Yeah. There's no tension. It's no question.
Yeah.
And Danny Phantom versus Ben, I get that they're from Cartoon Network, kind of similar eras. I don't think it's an interesting matchup. They just don't really like compare to each other in terms of abilities. There's nothing really there that we could like compare too much. Like, sure, maybe there are some aliens, some very specific aliens that would be interesting to fight a ghost, but Ben 10 as a whole, not really.
But also, that's also super weird. Just like, we have a ghost in Death Battle. Like, you know, like, how do you fight a ghost?
Well,
like,
I do want to bring Danny Phantom in. I mean, we've
never had a ghost before.
We've had people who can turn into spirits, like Dr. Fate, and Stephen Strange, but
like, what were you do, like Casper? Like
Casper or Danny Phantom?
Boo? Like Boo seems like a good one.
Ichigo is technically kind of a
spirit.
ghost.
Yeah.
He's a spirit. He's a physical body, and then he can become spiritual being sort of thing. I guess Danny Phantom is technically the same thing. He's just a normal kid who can turn into a ghost when he wants to. So,
anyway.
Casper versus Danny Phantom coming next to Death Battle.
Can that be our community death battle, please?
I'm down for that. All right. So, that's why we ended up going with Green Lantern. Felt like it might be a more interesting matchup. Spoilers. Green Lantern does win. I know that DC has had kind of an intense streak on Death Battle lately.
It's because we're owned by Warner now.
Yeah, definitely. Even though this actually started like before the big, the streak technically started before the Warner like started rearranging or whatever.
No,
so this is not intentional, and anybody who's watched us, for any period of time knows that we don't stack fights in a way to try to create streaks or whatever. I legitimately thought when we were setting this episode up that this would be the end of it. Like, finally, Ben 10 is going to win, and then Green Lantern, the DC streaks ended. Finally, let's do this.
It really boils down to, like, DC, not all of DC is bad writing, but most characters have instances of very, very poor writing. Like when Green Lantern has more willpower than willpower itself. Like, that is stupid fucking writing. And, like, you write dumb shit like that, and your characters become, like, unhinged, and that's kind of boring. Like,
the way I look at it is DC is famous for having a multiple events called crises, right? Crisis on Infinite Earth. But DC itself also went through its own crisis where Marvel came onto the scene and did amazingly well with characters that were more human. Right. And so DC thought, fuck, we got to change everything, and started trying to rewrite all this shit, and everything got confusing and weird and didn't make any sense. So a lot of these like crazy superpowers either come from like old comics where they're all like gods, or from the time periods where they were trying to change everything because Marvel was doing so much better than them, and they just couldn't figure it out. And then, of course, New 52 has happened, and that was total shit show that they ended up rebooting it just like 6 years later or whatever.
What's great is Ben's a huge DC fan.
Kind of like I.
Well, there are really good DC characters, not Superman, but Batman is pretty good, and like. Wonder Woman's a great character, and even though she's a little unhinged and silly, like she's still grounded a lot of the time. And like her most recent arcs have been well written, in my opinion. But then you have, a lot of other characters. Like I guess New Shazam's pretty okay. I don't know. There's a lot though where you're just like, wait, why is this a thing? Like Green Lantern is kind of stupid. I don't like how that's
I've
working.
never been able to really get into the Green Lantern story.
Yeah, like and there's so much stuff with the emotional color spectrum and shit, and like there's just all these things where I'm just like, it's too much like almost like high fantasy shit playing into it at times, and you're just like, okay,
like
I don't,
cosmic fantasy.
yeah,
thing.
cosmic
There's
fantasy,
a lot of
and
that.
you're just like, come on now, like,
Yeah,
I don't
it
need any of
gets
this.
like every character in Post Crisis has some kind of force that they tap into.
Yeah.
Like the green, the blue, the clear,
Yeah.
the gray,
And, like,
the
colors.
speed,
The Speed
force.
Force, yeah.
Everybody's got it except for
Well,
Wonder Woman, I think. Like
And all those characters are the ones like I kind of don't care for because they're just ungrounded, and it's like you have people like Batman. It's like, oh, cool, he could die. Like, yeah, he's insane, but he could die, and he's not like he doesn't always win or always have a trump card. Like, yeah, he's pretty much always got a gadget, but like it adds up.
It's also both sides of that because you're like, oh, that person always like prevails, but then like when they do get like hit by something or shot by something, you're like, that's bullshit because I know what they're capable of and they will never hit them.
Gaming news guy in the chat mentions John Constantine is the best DC character. Constantine is awesome. That's when you say I'm a DC fan, I am kind of a select DC fan. There are some characters that DC has that are just phenomenal. Batman, of course, is the easy one to lean to, but like John Constantine is fantastic. Wonder Woman is fantastic. But then compared to Marvel, they have a very small selection of really cool characters. Whereas Marvel, you can just kind of throw a stone into the pond. You'll probably hit a really cool character.
Yeah.
You
Like,
can also, there's a handful of stupid ones. Like Scarlet Witch is a piece of shit character. Like Scarlet Witch trivializes literally every word you read in a Marvel comic book, and that is
maybe
boring.
it depends
Like,
on the story. And again, this very much goes like Superman is sometimes the best character, sometimes the worst character. Depends on the writer. A lot of times these writers don't know what to do with the characters because it's been around for decades upon decades. So a lot of them try something new, and oftentimes it falls flat. Sometimes it's really cool though. It's very hit or miss, which is why it's hard for me to subscribe to comic books because I feel like there's more misses than hits generally, like in big comic book series. But when a good story comes out, like you got to recognize that.
Yeah.
But either way. Back to the death battle at hand. Andrew, we've got you here. Let's talk a little bit about what you do. So can you kind of cover what you do for Death Battle and Rooster Teeth as a whole?
Yeah, I do all of the sound design, sound effects, editing for Death Battle, Ruby, a bunch of different shows. Mostly, I'm just trying to figure out how to make the sounds that you see or the stuff you see on screen come to life in terms of sound. I typically try to make stuff from the ground up, scratch. I do a lot with Death Battle. I've been doing a lot of synthesis, which is super fun because it's literally just your imagination and the tool that you're using. So I've been using a lot of that for like
Foley?
energy sounds. Yeah. Well, Foley. So Foley's an interesting thing because for the most part, it's perform recording. So you'll see something happen on screen and then you do it. You're supposed to be doing it like in time, and they'll like have cues that they set up where it's like beep, 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 and then you do your thing. For the most part, we edited that together in post. But every now and again, we get a chance to do some real Foley, which is super neat, and I think makes it more detailed and lively and feels more attuned to the project.
For Death Battle specifically, it's a little unique to some of the other projects you do for Rooster Teeth in that we are using characters that have what's referred to as canon sounds, or that they have certain sound effects that are already associated with them that we need to include.
Yeah.
Like the Spider-Man Thwip, or with Benton, he's got the Omnitrix sound effects. Like you can't not have the sound effect for the Omnitrix, right?
Right.
So how do you go about kind of incorporating those with like the custom stuff that you make?
Sometimes it's just a matter of like literally using the sound. We'll find it and use it and maybe add something on top of that to make it like cooler. But for the most part, you have to be true to what the original sound was. And honestly, like even when I can't just copy it per se, I try to like recreate it and make it feel like that sound. And I did a lot of that with with Green Lantern. A lot of his stuff is very lasery sounding, so I incorporated a lot of lasers into it. There's a lot of like white noise filtered stuff that kind of made like a spacey sort of energy sound, because that's just what Green Lantern is. He's just, outer space, like that's the whole thing.
Cosmic kind
Cosmic,
of character, like you were
yes.
saying, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a lot of what was fun about working on Death Battles, was trying to recreate these, classic legendary sounds made by super talented guys way back in the day, and even upgrade them in some cases.
That's cool. What was your favorite sound you've done so far?
Probably Warrior vs. DV, right?
Yeah. the fart nuclear explosion was actually kind of fun to work on. That, oh my god, that death battle, the notes that you gave me on that battle, 90% of them were just add more fart, please.
Yep.
More fart, please. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
I've never had to write that note before in my life. But I don't think I had a lot of notes for that one, but I do remember like the last note on the entire thing was that big explosion, and my note was just add more fart.
Yeah. Just bring out the fart a little bit more. Less explosion, more fart.
Yeah.
I always feel so bad whenever we have like an obnoxious sound, just thinking about the fact that like you have to hear it like 1,000 times in your headphones over and over again and keep tweaking it. Like I felt so bad for so Jake over in live action.
Yeah.
He did the sound design for our live action Nightwing Daredevil, and we have the part where the sonar batarang goes off, and it's just the most obnoxious sound. And I was like, dude, he's like, I went home with such a headache. And so I think about that now with the fart sounds, dude. You just never hear, anything gross or obnoxious, like. Oh, man.
It always takes the longest too. Like there's always a sound you have to spend the most time on, and it's like, all right, this is the 100,000th time I've had to listen to this sound.
Yeah, for the Sonic Batarang or the Sonic Wingding in that one. I remember him talking about like how he had to go through multiple passes because he created that sound with like a bunch of different effects together. I think there's like a whale call in there even. So he had to create the sound effect and start like rebuilding it over and over and over. Test it. Does it sound annoying, but also not annoying that's gonna like cause people to turn the video off?
Right.
Does it sound like a
delicate
Sonic
balance.
thing that's gonna like destroy the character's brain, but not the viewer's brain?
Right.
There's so many things that have to go into it.
Come
and
closer.
Gotcha.
by the time
know
he was
this.
done with it, he's listened to that thing like 1,000,000 times, which fucking sucks.
Yeah.
but it turned out great, and like I was saying, I really, really enjoyed how Benton, Green Lantern, the sound design came out for that. And you also work with Philip and Chris on that, who have been working with us for a while as well.
Yeah, they're great.
It's phenomenal working with an actual audio team,
dude.
Knowing that just like
Tell me about it.
A little over a year ago, we were just struggling to
It
put
makes
this
a
all
big
together
difference,
ourselves.
too. Like I never noticed how much like that real professional like sound polish, like what it does for an episode until like we had some real. I was always like, yeah, our sound design's pretty good. And then I think that Chris did the first death battle like super professionally, like when we moved here, and I was like, oh shit, our sound design's been bad for so long. It's so much better. Like
It was. I mean, we had a huge jump just when Noel would do his passes.
Yeah.
And then now it's having actual professionals is great.
and like the amount of stuff, like I remember we were in the little like editorial room for one fight. It was something about like rocks breaking.
The layers.
And Philip was with us, and he was like, let me get some broken rock noises. And he had this like folder of just like boulders cracking and stuff. And he was just like, he threw like 3 noises together and made this really cool crunchy like rock broken noise. And I was like, wow, that was like, I don't even know what you did, but that was sweet as hell. Like you just made like this custom concrete crack noise, and it was so perfect. I was like, Jesus.
It's also sometimes so staggering to see just how many layers can be on some sound effects.
Yeah.
Like we were doing, this was Afro Samurai vs. Samurai Jack, and Philip was working on that. And I remember we're in the booth for review for the sound pass, and I like had one note on one sound, and like I wanted it to sound a little different or something. And I remember him going back. He's like, okay, so that's here on the timeline, and there's just like a bajillion layers of the things that have come together to make this sound. And it's just like, man, it's crazy to like you don't think about that.
Yeah, you don't even hear it really. It's just like if you do it right, it's all one sound, but it's like all those little details kind of make it interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many effects do you put into one sound typically? Like, there's a single sound effect that happens on screen. What goes into making that sound effect?
It depends. It could be like 3 sounds. If you find the right thing, it could be like 3 sounds. Sometimes it's got to be a little more complicated than that. Sometimes you're building, it's like, constructing a building, essentially. You got to have the foundation. You got to have like the bricks. You got to have the roof, which basically is essentially your low end, your mid, and your high. That's like the biggest thing with layering is a lot of times you'll have a sound that's great, super heavy low end, but you just got to have that like mid and high to kind of fill it out. So that's where layering helps a lot.
What's the most layers you've ever done on the sound?
Most layers, I think I've hit close to like 40 on one particular sound, but like scenes go as deep as like 100 sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like insane how much you have to do that. It's pretty wild.
That's crazy. And I want to talk about like that's as the outside person who doesn't do sound design, you just hear like, oh, it's a punch sound, right? You just there it is, there's your sound, and then like seeing everything that goes into that and what you guys do, it's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you that our secret weapon is a file called Impact Rock Large. And it's a rock impact, but you can like cut off little pieces of it, and it just has like it has everything. It has the hard hittingness. It has like kind of the tail. We use it a lot.
So you just layer that with any kind of impact sound. And
Yeah,
it just
pretty
helps
much.
make it feel better.
Yeah, like punches is actually just a giant boulder.
Nice.
Well, like Indiana Jones is famous for incorporating gunshot sounds in their punches. Like every piece of media has like a new idea or a different way of like showcasing different sounds. It's really neat to really like dig into what exactly is going into that sound. You think that's a punch? It's actually a rock falling down, but it sounds like a cool punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Indiana Jones is like, that's Ben Burt. He's a legend, dude. He's like the grandfather. They call him the grandfather of sound design.
Star Wars as well.
Yeah, Star Wars, yeah. But Indiana Jones as well. I mean, like those punches hit so hard.
Yeah.
They hit so hard.
That man, and I remember one that really stood out for me. Did you ever play the new Killer Instinct?
I haven't.
Dude, it has the meatiest like punch sound effects. Like when you're playing, like I remember that jumped out to me. Just like, wow, like that, it's done so well. It just really makes you feel like you're just beating the hell out of somebody.
Dude, don't sleep on those game sound designers. Like there's some games that come out, I'm like, damn, man, these guys are amazing.
Well, okay, just to kind of wrap this up before going into our next segment, is there any one thing about sound design that you don't think that you'd like to mention or talk about that you don't think is really brought up all that much?
Budget. Don't seriously, like, if there's something I could tell to any filmmaker out there, please just like consider sound. Give us a good budget, and it'll help your project so much. Like
You see, you guys are often the last thing that's thought about when you're doing the budget. They're like, and whatever sound design only needs like $1,000, right?
yeah,
or something.
we're the last in the chain, like production wise. We're also the last in the chain in budget consideration. I think it's a damn shame.
Keep the audio team in mind when you plan your budget.
Yeah.
That's
All
the thing,
right.
is we're talking about how it's so nice having the expanded team, but we pay for it.
That's true.
We'll make it worth every penny.
Yeah.
All right, Chad, you want to talk about our
Yeah,
first
I do.
sponsor of the day?
Speaking of sound and things to listen to, I have been waiting for Audible to sponsor us again. They were one of our really early sponsors in Death Battle, and they are a product that I believe in so much. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Audible. So if you don't know, Audible is an app that lets you listen to audiobooks and so much more. Because right now members are getting even more than ever before. You get to choose 3 titles every month. That's 1 audiobook plus 2 Audible originals that you can't hear anywhere else. Members also have unlimited access to more than 100 guided fitness and meditation programs. Audible members can also get free access to the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post, which is delivered daily to the Audible app. They also offer free and easy audiobook exchanges, credits that you can roll over for a year, and a library that will keep you you can keep even if you cancel. So here's the deal. I literally signed up for Audible way back when they sponsored Death Battle, and I've had it ever since. My Audible account has, I think, like over 5 months of listening time, and it's been super convenient for me because I'm a huge fantasy nerd. I love to read fantasy novels, and I found just like as life got busy, I didn't have a chance to sit down and read that much anymore. And that is when I fell in love with Audible, because I use it like when I'm doing chores, I use it when I'm driving, so I can listen to all these different books. And I have just machined through so many series that I've kind of was on my list to tackle, and it's been super great. Also, I don't know if you guys have trouble sleeping. I found it super helpful for me to just pop in like one headphone, and then I just use it as I'm going to sleep. It helps turn my brain off, and it's great. So, I highly encourage you guys to go try this because I would love for them to keep sponsoring the cast because I love this product. So you guys can start listening with a 30-day Audible trial, and your first audiobook plus 2 Audible originals are free. So visit audible.com/dbcast or text dbcast to 500-500. Again, that's audible.com/dbcast or text dbcast to 500-500. I'm going to give you a recommendation right now. I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson fan. Go pick up The Way of Kings, the first book in the Stormlight Archive. I have a tattoo, literally, from it because I love it so much. You will not be disappointed. And also, the narration is incredible. Audible has a whole list of just really incredible narrators. And that one's done by Michael Kramer and Kate Reading. So, yeah, go. Sign up. Do it. You won't regret it.
Thank you so much, Audible.
Yeah.
Again, longtime sponsor of the show, which is great. All right. So, again, a little bit out of order. We are going right now into the community death battle. So this one is for Final Fantasy characters, Cloud versus Noctis. And as always, with the community death battle, we leave it up to you guys. Let us know who you think should win and why using hashtag DeathBattleCast on Twitter. And so we have an answer for Cloud from Jason Sith. And he says, Cloud defeated Sephiroth, who launches Supernova at 3.1 megafo with a combat speed of 7.5 trillion times the speed of light. This is from Sephiroth vs. Virgil, apparently. I don't honestly remember exact numbers from that episode, but I'll trust him that he's that he's got the right numbers. He's much stronger than Noctis, who defeats Royal Arms at 12 teratons TNT and Mach 538. Cloud's win is undeniable. So this guy,
he's very confident.
Jason Sith put in some numbers.
Right.
He got some math crunching going on, which is cool. So according to Jason Sith, Cloud has much higher numbers for strength and speed. But we have an answer from Gentleman Top Hat for Noctis. And he says, Noctis wins. He has beaten gods and has the ring of Lucy?
Sure.
I haven't played this game, so I don't know. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Which gives access to several powerful spells like Death, which insta-kills targets by atomizing them. He also has an invincibility mode that lets him fly and use every royal arm weapon given by the gods. All right.
No puns this time.
No puns. But we got numbers. We got and very specific call-outs for weapons and stuff, which is interesting.
I love that he can go invincible and just cast Death. Like,
technically, while you're invincible, you can't, but that's more of like a gameplay mechanic, I feel like.
yeah.
While you're invincible, like, you're doing your big, show-off move, so where all the king's weapons show up and, like, but, so, I don't know. And,
I
like,
think-
to be
Does
fair,
Death just atomize any enemy instantly?
I don't believe it works on any bosses.
Is
Now,
that a
do you-
gameplay mechanic
Right. That
thing?
feels
Almost
like it
certainly
would be a
gameplay
gameplay
mechanic.
mechanic because it wouldn't have fun if you could just one-shot a boss.
Yeah.
Or is there?
And it also
could
takes
there
a
be
little
some
bit.
kind of
like, even
reason
on
for it
normal
to not affect
mobs,
a
you
boss?
have to like hold it for a while and then it works. So, although that cooldown thing that might go away by in game. I don't remember like what level 100 is like, but yeah, I don't know. The death thing is certainly something, but I feel like it doesn't work on bosses like because. I don't think they ever give a reason. I think it's just gameplay is like, of course it doesn't. That would be dumb. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. That's a pretty good argument if you can just cast Death and atomize him.
Does he have to touch him for Death?
No.
Okay, interesting. I think I'd have to look into this
It's
spell a
like,
bit
it's
more.
almost like a Green Lantern ringy thing.
Okay.
He has a ring, and it's like
Except you die
Yeah.
immediately.
Well,
they
this
kind of
is
fade away a
Oh.
little bit. Yeah.
You get like Back to the Future a little bit. Is that what happens?
More like Thanos-y.
Oh.
I was just like
Snap him
dashy.
away.
Got it.
Dash.
Well, yeah, it's more kind of like while you're going, they start to kind of like go purpley, I think, and then when it's done, they go like.
But there's like a time to it. It's not an instantaneous thing.
No, it's not instantaneous. You have to
Okay.
hold square, I believe it is, on them for a while. There's a point in the game where you get the ring and lose all your weapons, and that's the only way you can kill people, and you have to like kind of like be like while you run around them and stuff. while they
So
try
it
and
does
kill
stay
you.
connected to them.
I believe so, yeah.
So is it reasonable to say
It's been I played this game when it came out. That's like 4 years ago. Memory's foggy.
sure? But is it possible that like the reason it doesn't work on bosses is because they're fast enough? They could be fast enough or strong enough to get involved in the fight before death spell, whatever it's called, death can affect them.
Probably.
Like in terms of canon.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was gonna say this is like a classic case of death battle where one character has higher stats, but the other character has like very specific abilities that could like one shot or defeat the opponent if they have that opportunity. Green Lantern versus Benton actually kind of has a little bit of this going on. We'll talk about it more next week, but it's very much a case where one character has a lot of abilities that could counter specific things about this character, but the other character has higher numbers and is more powerful. So it really comes down to, can that character deal with the counters?
Right.
I feel like there's there's a weird gray area of like how all this works with Death Battle and like what people take from a character in like the whole like Sephiroth thing is I would need to look into it more, but there's like this I feel like the Sonic trailer is a good thing. Like he can like pretty much stop time, but also gets shot by a trank dart. So either Sonic is slower than a trank dart, or that police officer's trank dart is faster than light. Like you have to like look at these things and it's like no, there is also bits of just plot where these things are kind of excused because that's the fucking story and this is how things work. It's not so I don't know. Like I feel like that. And also, I feel like there's things where it's like you're talking about Sephiroth in, I assume, Final Fantasy VII, and like graphical limitations change these things a lot because like that's how they did it, because that was how they could make this thing happen. They couldn't show a lot of detail as far as distance traveled, so they would use bigger things.
Well, when you're lasering with death, can the other thing still attack you?
yeah.
Ooh.
Do like an interrupt.
So now it's like, well, yeah, could Cloud just kill him before he could?
But then I can't remember
that's what I
if
was
I
going
can't
for.
remember if this ring gets like I think it does get upgrades later, and I don't know if it just like when you
Instant.
look at a normal mob, you can just make zap and then it goes on cooldown for a little bit. I can't remember if it gets
I don't
upgraded
quite
like that.
remember what the 7.5 trillion times the speed of light feet comes from for Cloud. 'Cause
I
that
think
seems
he
really
causes
fast.
a magic thing that goes through space. I think his
Maybe
attack.
I don't
like,
remember.
he has,
I
like,
know the supernova thing. We determined that Sephiroth doesn't actually create it. He creates a
Another
portal or
dimension,
whatever to
yeah.
another dimension, which has a supernova happening. But if we take these numbers at face value, I have to put my vote on Cloud.
Oh, for fucking
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because if Death really takes time to cast, then Cloud can just speed blitz him and it's
Yeah.
over.
That said, I'm holding out hope that he can just go invincible and then cast death. So I'm voting.
That's also
Also,
Noctis.
nothing. If you just look at the two, like nothing Noctis does. Like it's he does baller. He's very all over the place. But then if you look at stuff like Advent Children, where Cloud gets thrown like a billion miles in the air to fight a dragon, like I feel like there's there's differences where you're like, okay, cool, this guy's fucking insane.
Hey,
So,
I'm gambling on. I'm going with wild card. I'm just.
you're
I'm hoping
voting
he can go
Noctis?
invincible and use death. Yes, I'm voting Noctis.
All right, I'm voting
I'm
Cloud.
Cloud.
I gotta go Noctis.
There we go.
Oh shit!
50-50
We gotta-
divide.
2 and 2. All right. Well, as always, it really comes down to you guys. So let's check out what the poll has to say. Cloud wins.
fine.
Yeah, that was I mean, that was kind of a given. Cloud's
Yeah.
like the fuck. Even though I don't understand why Cloud is like the fucking hero child from all Final Fantasies, like he acts like a child and so bad in some of the situations in Final Fantasy VII. Like he literally goes like catatonic and leaves the team. Like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having like a moment of mental hardship, but as far as like when you're looking at a protagonist that's a badass, I'm like, that's the guy who has like, he thought he was somebody else. He actually didn't do all the things that he thought he did. Like, there's all these problems with him where I'm like, he's like a really good flawed protagonist. He's not the ultra badass that people think he is in so many situations, but
He's
Whatever.
not really your typical ultimate hero kind of thing.
Yeah, no, he's not. Like,
What you want, like Captain America, that kind of character to show up? Like,
I no, I'm just saying. Like, I feel like Final Fantasy has other protagonists that are,
More interesting.
yeah.
All right. Well, you know what is
That's
ultra
so fair.
badass, Sam?
Oh, I know it's ultra badass. It's Quip toothbrushes. Is that where you're going? Were
Yeah, it
you
was,
giving me
bud.
that free
Yep.
segue? I appreciate it. Well, it being spring, it's time for spring cleaning, and the thing you need to clean the most is your mouth. Let me tell you about that. You know, it's got these weird white rocks in them. It's a good place to clean, and to do that, you need a Quip toothbrush. These bad boys are some of the best toothbrushes on the market, if not the best. And I've been using one for, I don't know, man, Quip has been sponsoring us for a while, like nearly a year, and it has completely changed my toothbrushing game. A, it's the best looking toothbrush you'll ever find, but B, it's super effective. Like, this guy's got a 2-minute timer on it, which I did not know I was not brushing my teeth long enough. Now I am. Thank you, Quip. I appreciate that very much. And it also, not only that, like, that kind of attitude helps you form these, like, healthy habits, like, and it being an enjoyable product to use. I'm like, I have to brush my teeth now. And, like, you know, it's a good thing to go do. So, yeah, it's good for a lot of reasons, and those kind of things also help kids enjoy it. So think about that. So let's see. The kid's new brush is the same as your original version, just tweaked for size down mouths. This is now they have kids brush. Sorry, I should have just mentioned that. And it's like the same brush, but tiny because they have smaller mouths. Just if you didn't know, children have smaller mouths. Kids are inspired to brush better and more often with oral care that looks and feels like the products that adults use in their life. So they're proud to use Quip. Help them develop grown-up routines with childish gimmicks. Chad, are you going to try this?
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
children. Okay,
Yeah.
good. We'll get on board with these kid brushes here in a second.
I also think he'll be super stoked to see whatever sorcery it is they use to stick that thing to the mirror.
I don't understand. It sticks to your mirror like it's out of Star Trek, and it's the best thing ever. Anyway, so they have kid-friendly features like small brush head, watermelon anti-cavity toothpaste. I want that. And rubber grip handles in colors little ones will love. They have the sensitive sonic vibrations, which are in all the toothbrushes, all the Quips, the adult one as well, which is excellent for cleaning your teeth. And you don't have to just take our word for it. You can take the word of thousands and thousands of dental professionals. Over 25,000 dental professionals, actually. So, yeah, go get Quip. And you can do that by going to getquip.com/cast, and you'll get $25, or it's $25 just to start, and you'll get your first refill pack for free. That's getquip.com/cast.
It's super convenient. Don't have to
Great.
worry about chargers, and they send you replacement heads, and that take care of everything for you. It's super
It's
convenient.
super,
yeah,
super good.
it's a legitimately really good toothbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think a bunch of us are subscribed to it. So
Okay.
definitely check it out. It's I mean, that deal's too good to not take advantage of, I'd say.
Yep. These, talking about the sponsor of this episode are some of these sponsors that we believe in the most. So please go try them.
Yes,
they've helped us
absolutely.
out a lot, and you won't regret it.
Top tier.
Real quick before we move on to the next segment, we did pass over actually announcing the next community death battle.
yeah,
I know
sorry.
there was something decided yesterday when I was out. I'm sorry, Gerardo. I'm going to trump that.
Yeah, because it's Casper versus Danny Phantom.
Well, it could either be Danny Phantom versus Casper. Unfortunately, it's Casper. Like, what are we gonna do with Casper?
dude, he's got a couple movies, and he's got a lot of old
This doesn't
cartoons.
fight though. Okay, so here's my proposal.
friendly.
We
He's
could
probably
do
done
we could
something.
do Danny Phantom versus Casper, or the highest requested matchup for Danny Phantom that isn't Ben
Which
10.
is,
Jake Long.
who's Jake Long? I don't know the freaking ones.
Yeah,
He's this
I'm
dragon
lost.
guy.
Dragon Man.
Transforms into a dragon. He's from. Why am I blanking on the name? I literally just had the name of the show in my head. American Dragon. That's right.
American
American
Dragon. This must have been
Dragon.
after our time, I think.
It's around the same time period as Ben 10.
Yeah.
that kind of
Got
thing.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
Right? Is that the
sure.
right name, Gerardo?
Something like that.
Cool.
Jake Long, the American.
I don't know. I
Dragon?
never watched the show, but that's like really highly requested. So let's do that. Danny
Yeah.
Phantom versus Jake Long. One transforms into a ghost. The other transforms into a fucking dragon.
I think Dragon beats Ghost, but that's just me.
But would Dragon?
Well, Danny Phantom might have a Dragon Ghost. Dragon Ghost definitely, clearly fucking Trump. We'll see.
All right.
but like-
so
would Dragonfire hurt a ghost?
Yeah, how do you kill a ghost?
Think that might actually be a thing.
Well, it depends.
Again, I've never seen the show, but I have looked into this matchup before, and it definitely seemed like more interesting than Ben 10 versus Danny Phantom.
I mean, we have to see if
how did
his
ghosts
kill
Dragonfire's
dragons?
ever beaten
I don't
a
know.
ghost.
We'll see.
Oh, well, it depends on. This is going to be a great segue for you because it depends on the
know.
Dragonfire that's used. Because there
Exactly.
are some, like, sometimes they give Dragonfire, like, ultimate mystical properties. Like, oh, I don't know, the only thing that could kill, like, the White Walkers is Dragon Glass or fucking Dragonfire, which they didn't do in the show because the Night King was like, nah. And I'm like, that's fucked
All right.
up.
Well, before,
Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Hang on, real quick. I can't tell them how to do this.
Okay.
All right. Use hashtag DeathBattleCast on Twitter to let us know who you think should win between Danny Phantom and Jake Long. I'm very curious about this matchup because I've seen this requested a lot, and I don't really know a whole lot about Jake Long. I have watched a little bit of Danny Phantom, so out of the 3 big Cartoon Network characters that are Ben 10 and them, that's the one I know the most about. But I'm very curious to see what you guys think of this matchup and who you think should win and why. So let us know using hashtag DeathBattleCast. There will be a poll on the Death Battle Twitter. It's at Death Battle on Thursday when this episode of Death Battlecast goes live on YouTube. All right.
I'm sorry, I keep jumping the gun on my segues. I'm
now we can change that middle bar to the middle, or the lower bar to the middle of it.
Wherever.
Because we're now at the middle
Game
of the
of
show,
Groans.
at the end of the show, for what somebody decided to title as Game of Groans.
That was me.
All right. So I assume we are going into spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk
of
about
course.
Thrones.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Thrones and you don't care, I wouldn't blame you for
just-
leaving right
yeah,
now.
You can leave. It's okay.
Whatever.
back.
If
After
you
you've
want
watched
to, if you don't want to hear people complain about it, I would like this to be a constructive.
I don't have
conversation
hard
to a certain
complaints, and I
extent.
have things that I think were done well, and then there's other things that I think weren't done well, and it's like there are fine decisions made, and then there are weird ones. Like,
So I
Well,
don't want this
Ben-
to just become a big rage fest. I want this
I
to
got
be
it.
like an interesting conversation.
I'm mad.
No
But it's
problem.
very easy to like fall into a rage fest. I know because a lot of things kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
So
First of
Chad,
all,
okay, just to establish where we're all at. Chad, you've read the books.
Yes.
You're probably the biggest long-term fan of Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire.
Thank you for
Sam,
correcting
you've
that.
also
okay, here. So the books leave off when Jon Snow gets stabbed, right? That's the last book.
The last thing
Yeah.
that we saw from Jon is that he gets stabbed. Yeah.
Okay, I want the next book to come out and Jon not to be resurrected, and them to just make a Y, like just be like, okay, timelines work to there, and then
Everything's
boom,
different.
different fucking story. I think that's what they should.
Martin had said, I don't remember what season this was, but he at one point said they've already made decisions about a character that will be 100% different in the way the book is. But I feel like
There's
they've
like a
done
million
that.
of
They've,
those.
I feel like
That's
they've done that with
like-
so
as
many.
dark as that too.
Well,
Like,
Catelyn. So
real quick, Andrew, have you read the books? Or just the
I
show?
haven't. No.
Okay, I'm the same spot. Like I
Yeah.
haven't read the books, just watched the show.
It's
And I
very-
love the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even the last couple seasons, I know there's a lot of problems with it, but I thought it was enjoyable. I thought Tyrion's plan to go get a zombie from across the wall and bring it all the way back to King's Landing
So
was fucking stupid.
dumb.
But
Oh, dumb.
for the most part, I've been totally
also
on board
a
with
giant
everything they've been
waste,
doing.
pretty much, because like the only
Listen.
person they got was Jamie. Like,
Yeah,
out of that whole
pretty
thing.
much.
Yeah, but here's the whole flawed thing about like the dragon should have never died. They should have never gone beyond the wall because you know fucking what? All they need is a dead person, and he comes back to life.
Well, the Night
ha-
King has to actively bring them back.
Bullshit! It happened in the at the wall. When that was the thing, there was this whole
that's right.
because they brought in the dead rangers and they didn't burn them, and then they came back to fucking
It
life.
happens after a
And-
period of
yes,
time. That's why
yes,
they burn their dead.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no purpose.
So they just needed to bring someone that needed to be executed past the wall, execute him, and just wait and be
or
like,
do
"Oh,
it
we
at
got
the
our
wall.
guy."
Do it at the wall because you were gonna assume it's only happening in the north. There's like a proximity thing,
Yeah,
right?
they even
Okay.
burn them at the wall or
Right,
beyond
yeah.
the wall.
So there's a range, or is there not a range?
It sounds like there's probably a range.
There's got to be, because they don't burn everybody in the entirety of Westeros. It's just people
Right.
at
Yeah.
the wall.
Right, so it's happening up there. But the thing is, we've already shown that Winterfell is in range of this resurrection thing that happens. So the whole thing of like, we got to venture beyond the wall and go find one. And then we lost fucking one of Dany's dragons because of it. It was all pointless, dumb bullshit.
That's totally true.
Yes.
That also, like, so the reason why people aren't thinking about the White Walkers throughout the majority of the show is because the wall is so isolated from everything else.
Right.
Like, they may believe in it, but they're all the way out there. Nobody really communicates
Right.
with them. The whole point is that they're isolated.
Right.
So that's why Cersei doesn't give a shit. It's
Right.
not because nobody knows they exist outside of the people who have ventured outside the wall, which is what it felt like in the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
Like even some of the Night's Watch probably were like, White Walkers don't exist. We're just here because whatever.
Right.
But they're literally having zombies
Right.
rise up all the time, so they have to burn their dead.
Right, and that started happening more recently. It used to, I mean, they would always burn their dead, but
Right.
like, you know, obviously the whole winter is coming thing, and this is ramping up, and you know, all that. That's what started to cause this, and it starts up there, and that's why like it made sense to bring a zombie down to convince everybody and be like, hey, we're not crazy, but they did it the dumbest way possible. Anyway,
All right. Well, so that was season 7,
And then
season 8. So
the domino effect from that dumb decision, though, it's staggering.
I do think it set them up for a situation that they just the
Couldn't get
show
out
wasn't prepared for. They wrote themselves into kind of a corner where it was like, and now everybody's going to kill the Night King. The whole conflict has kind of ended between all the kingdoms because everybody suddenly understands that they have to fight the White Walkers, even though the previous 7 seasons, like the big theme was nobody ever comes together.
Yeah.
But now we're just all going to come together in 3 episodes and kill them. The end.
Yep.
Problem solved.
Dude.
So I'm gonna real quick just to establish where we're at. I'm gonna like line out some of the concerns that I had because again, I really enjoyed the show up to a certain point, and then yes, this season's kind of fallen out. So I want to mention a couple things to see if you agree.
Sure.
So I think having the fight with the White Walkers in the middle of the season and then having it have no impact whatsoever completely deflates the entire show.
Absolutely.
Because the whole point of the series
I don't-
from the beginning is that all this bullshit with the Iron Throne doesn't fucking matter.
Because
what
of
really
what's happening,
matters is this outside threat. And the
Right.
whole thesis of the series is supposed to be that if humanity doesn't come together, they will be destroyed.
Right.
Right.
And then
Also-
they kind of come together, but not really. Like a couple people don't join them, and they just kill the Night King. Like one person kills
Dorne,
everybody.
Dorne just fucks off
Yeah,
entirely.
Dorne isn't
Yeah.
involved.
Hey, they showed up at the very end to be sitting around.
Yeah, the prince fucking did.
Well,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
prince
That guy.
did, but
Right, I know,
where's
I know.
Dario? Remember him
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Marine? Like, what happened to him?
Oh, does
Danny left him in Marine and was like, "You take care of the slave stuff over here. I'm gonna go to Westeros and I'll be back." Completely dropped.
I'm trying to remember from if the season is something different from the books in that case. Whatever.
But
I mean, that was probably after the books, but like he's
Where the books end is Danny flying off on Drogon.
oh right.
Uh,
So yes, it was after the books.
Right, so
in
the-
the books, she's not at Westeros yet.
Yeah, it's like she's about to marry this dude, or she just married this dude. I can't remember. And then they're like
Dude
they
from
reopen
Marine.
they reopen the fighting pits, and then Drogon just comes like wrecking in, like melts a dude who's trying to kill her. Or something like that, and then she jumps on his back, and they fly off to this like cave. Like the last
Yeah.
thing you see is that she's woken
And
up.
that's in the
this cave that
series,
he's
and then
been
she
chilling
meets
at.
the Dothraki again in the series, which I don't know where the Dothraki went at the end of this episode, but season. But
But did you like how they sent them all to die, and then they were just back?
yeah,
It's like here they are
They,
again.
like, yeah.
in the same amount of like the same number of.
that's the thing that fucking kills me. Is like the whole thing. Like I didn't mind the Battle of Winterfell, where it's like, but then it seems like and they make a big deal. They're like, we've lost so many people. Like. Our army's fucked, and then the next episode, they're like, it's actually not that bad. Like, we still got like the biggest army in the world, so we'll just like march down there right fucking now. And they're like, yeah, cool, bro, that sounds good. Like, I don't understand why. It would have been more interesting to be like, okay, they're like that
Have
army's
repercussions.
fucking devastated now,
Yeah.
and then I was like, that should have just been like Cersei should have attacked them at that point, and that would have been like, oh, cool, their army's fucked because they tried to save the world, and now the terrible person's trying to like take advantage of that.
Dude, if
but
it
they were
ended
just
on
like,
the
nah, we
battlefield-
good. Like,
it is
Yeah,
kind of
we're still
weird that
better than
Cersei
you.
just like waited for them. Like her whole plan was that she would take advantage of it and wipe them out when everything was done.
Yeah, I mean,
she
it's
just
not
kind of
like-
sits there and waits.
She couldn't get there. It's not like she had a fleet. Sorry.
Oh.
yeah, it's
She sends the fleet, and then the fleet just comes back.
I don't know,
they
dude.
shoot down a dragon. I guess.
Like,
And
They
my
kill a
thing
dragon,
is-
they're like, we're
my
done.
thing
We don't
is,
need
like,
to deal with the other
yeah,
dragon.
Drogon's plot armor is strong.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like
Oh, God.
Rhaegal just got fucked.
Poor
like,
Rhaegal. Like that shot
The
where he
fucking
dies.
SEAL Team 6 guy on the first shot ever fucking decimated. And then like they have like 100 stormtroopers the next episode who are just like, oh God. Oh. Like, it's so stupid. It's like, where was that fucking guy?
So-
He nailed a dragon first shot, like
And then-
way away.
And then
Like,
Euron's casual hop off the boat on the fucking green screen that is so, oh God.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
Right.
let's use that to transition to what a lot of people are considering a positive, which is the cinematography and the way it looks. Like, do you guys think that the series as a whole, or at least this season, looked really cool? Like, had some really cool effects and cinematography and whatnot?
Oh,
I
for
don't-
sure.
I
there were
think,
some dope moments.
I think costume design was fucking awesome.
yeah.
Um,
Although I really hate how they made all the Starks like costumes
look evil as shit.
evil.
I know they
Yeah.
did. That was the thing. I did the same thing.
Dark-
Like,
And they do
dark-
that with
like a
Dany
dark
too,
theme,
because
sure.
like for so long
Dany-
she's like wearing all white, and then she's like, "I'm a bad bitch now," and puts on some like
Right.
dark
Yeah.
clothes. And
I-
you're like, okay, I guess. Like,
I legit with that in that episode they gave her that costume change after
Yeah.
what she did, you know, and it just makes her look so fucking evil. Like again, the costume design is super cool. I thought there were
Yeah.
a lot of really bad like green screen moments.
I
Like,
for sure.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
a
Any
lot
of the
of
dragon shots were like,
some of them were pretty cool. I've seen a lot of people complimenting the cinematography and the presentation, and I do have to say, I think to a certain extent it does look really cool when there is CG involved. Some of the CG is kind of bad looking, but like the dragon looks fucking dope.
Right.
And like all these like really epic shots that people are putting on Twitter, it's like, this is really cool looking, this is really cool looking. They're all CG related shots.
Yeah.
Like the dragon behind Danny, the
Oh,
fire.
the
That
wings
shot with
coming
the
out.
wings,
I
like-
rolled my eyes.
Yeah,
so
it was kinda
hard.
obvious.
it was
Like-
really, really fucking cheesy, but it was good.
I'm
Like,
just surprised we didn't see that earlier. Like this is the first time
Yeah.
this has happened. But like the fire behind the Hound and the Clegane Bull fight. There's a lot of really cool CG shots, but then when there's not CG involved, it's very boring to watch.
Yeah.
I kind of noticed there's like this very distinct difference. It's like the Star Wars prequels in a
think-
way, where like whenever they're just talking, there's just flat shots back and forth showing them talking, and then when some dragon shows up, holy shit, suddenly we got really cool shots.
Right,
So it feels to me like they kind of rushed through all the boring, quote unquote, boring stuff to get to the really epic spectacle to turn this series or this season not into like a storytelling a masterpiece, but a spectacle masterpiece.
Yeah.
And that was the attempt. At least that's what it feels to me, and I'm not really on board with that.
Yeah.
To be honest, fucking Blackwater ruined everything. I think like producers and stuff looked at Blackwater and was like, that episode was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that was dope because
Which
it was a big
episode's that?
explosion. It's the first big
The
fight
Battle of
of
Blackwater.
the series.
Oh, with the boats and the Baratheons trying
Yeah,
to come
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that series that episode blew everybody away in terms of this large scale battle and the effects and stuff, and it was awesome. And ever since then, I feel like they've been trying to top it,
Well-
and I feel like this entire season is trying to top Blackwater.
And that large
and what
scale
it
battle
was
is really also they did a good job with that one because like they also spent like 5 episodes planning what they were going to do, and then you see an execution on it. It's like that's great, and it worked. And then like you have like the Battle of Winterfell where they're like, we're gonna plan for 15 minutes, and then Danny's gonna fuck off and ruin the plan, and then like that's gonna be like I don't know. Not that that really mattered anyways, but still, I just feel like, yeah, like that fight was great because we saw the planning and the build up and the behind the scenes and like people getting ready for war.
Tyrion learning about the wildfire, things like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
setting it up with Bronn, like that was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which
feel like-
I do want to emphasize is that I think all 4 of us really enjoyed this series as a whole.
oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Like there's
sure.
It's just kind of you
Uh,
had expectations
You're
going
book
in that were different.
elitist.
I so tried not to. That just some of the
book is
decisions. Anyway,
better.
I feel like what we should do right now is give like our overall like high level, and then we can dive deeper in sudden death.
Yeah, well,
Just because I can go for a bit
For sure.
So like first of all, I gotta give you like you called it, Ben. I didn't want it to be it, but Ben and I had this discussion last
yeah,
week.
I totally called the
But
ending.
Ben absolutely called. who
Well,
would end up
part of the ending.
Well, you
I called
you just,
the king.
Right,
I
you-
was expecting there to be a White Walker at the end as well.
right.
But
Yeah, I
that
think
didn't happen.
everybody was
But-
expecting there to be like a new White
Yeah.
Walker.
No, instead they're gonna do the spin-off series where Arya goes and what's west of Westeros?
That's
where the map stopped.
That is literally my biggest complaint about the whole thing.
so
is
mad.
That was super
why
weird.
the fuck her character has never been like, I would love to be an adventurer. If for like the last 7 seasons she was like, I would have been an adventurer, but this is the way my life would be. I'd be like, oh yeah, great choice. That's what her character's always wanted. But it's like she's never fucking mentioned this before.
And Sansa really needs her. Like,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
why is she
That
not
was
the
such a
fucking
bullshit
Queen's
move.
Guard of the North? Like,
yeah.
Right.
that's like, oh yeah, cool. She really gives a shit about her family. This is her skill set. Like that
And they
makes
all
so
split
much
up.
sense for the character.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, I'm gonna fuck off and do this thing I've never mentioned having any interest in
Spin-off series.
before.
And also the dumbest line ever. Like, what's west of Westeros?
There was this wonderful
where the map
tweet.
stop.
I-
Because no one has ever fucking. Sorry.
I don't know who it was, but they posted what's west of Westeros, the Resteros.
Yeah, oh, I saw that.
It was great.
Yeah.
Somebody should have said that in the show.
Dude,
Okay, so high level.
high level.
Actually, let's end on you because you've got the most volatile probably response. So Sam, high level, season 8.
I mean, okay, it could have been, but there's dope shit, and you see it. I really didn't like the Battle of Winterfell in the sense that, like, I feel like they tried to shoot it as kind of like a little bit of like a horror movie time where like you're
Just
supposed to be
darkness in motion.
super scared of the whites and everything, and that makes complete and utter sense if we haven't already seen them for the last like 4 seasons.
Right.
It's like when you know what the movie monster is, you don't need to hide it after that point.
Right.
And it's like they just like, we've seen the movie monster and now they're hiding it for this one episode to make it seem extra scary. And I'm like, I get what they're going for. I just don't think it was the best way to do it. I would have like, I think that's why that episode's so dark, is because they want this like horror aspect to it. It's like, I just don't think we needed it. We already know what they're fighting. It doesn't need to be like, oh my god, it's this like a massive black mob of like just destruction. It's like, no, we know what's in there. Like, could we turn the lights on anyways? But it was pretty okay. I don't like a lot of
Yeah.
character decisions don't make sense, and that's my thing. Is like, I feel like when they were writing on the books, it was like they could just execute, and now they have these moments where they're trying to think of like, well, what would this character do? Or maybe they're not thinking what would this character would do. They're just being like, what makes a good plot? And that is differentiating very hard from what I assume George R. R. Martin does, which is think about every single thing the character would do and write that. Don't think about the overall plot, like act out each character. Maybe it's the other way around, but either way, I feel like there's a disconnect in that thought process of how characters act
Yes.
that makes everyone feel different in these last 2 seasons, especially this last one. That's just weird, and it's like
There was
the
a
character
really forced.
decisions
Yeah.
don't make a lot of sense.
What
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about, there was a little meme going around for a while about that, and it's called plotters versus pantsers. And the idea is that most writers write based on the plot, whereas some writers write off the seat of their pants. Whereas they let the characters dictate the story as opposed to the story dictate the characters. And R. Martin is very much a pantser, where he writes to let the characters. He basically lets the characters come
writes.
alive, and when he writes, lets the characters come alive and dictate the story.
That's interesting.
Whereas Benioff and Weiss are very much, it seems, plotters, where they are trying to set up payoff.
Yeah, that's exactly what makes. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's interesting. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I have a similar reaction as well. I'm okay with generally everything that happened, like the specific moments and like character evolutions. Arya's a little weird. There are a couple of ones that are like, what? A little weird. I just feel like it was rushed. I think that's the general idea that everybody has. Like, it's a little rushed. It's got some problems. Could have been a lot better if they had just done 10 episodes, like apparently HBO wanted them to. I don't know. But yeah. Also, the last episode was just boring.
It was really
It was
so
just
boring.
boring. And I'll bring it up in sudden death. I think there was one change, a single change they could have done to the entire episode to make it way more interesting and have a way better impact. But I'll talk about it in sudden death.
Your thoughts?
My thoughts. I thought they should have lost at Winterfell. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like,
That's
that
what
would have
I
made it way
wanted.
more interesting for me.
Yeah, I wanted Cersei to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, that was my go-to. Like, she's awful, but that,
Yeah.
like, I think that would have been a good point. And then even then, if the end of it is just like them losing the keep to the whites and being like, oh, cool, everything's gone now.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a better ending.
Yeah.
Did
I
it
don't know.
sound good?
Yeah, the creature sounds are amazing. Honestly, that's what stood out to me the most. Everything else was like, army battle stuff. But I don't know. The thing that annoyed me the most was the final like death of Danny. For me, it was just like, like that's like you're building to this climax of like, oh man, she's gonna be a crazy tyrant, and then it's just like. That's
I know. They
don't even really explore the tyrant too much. She has one impassioned speech where
Right.
she starts to get a little Nazi or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's just,
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's it. That's the climaxes.
Yeah, I was seriously sitting there, just like he goes up to hug her. I go and stab, and then it happens,
And then it happens,
and then Drogon comes up. I'm like, and you're gonna think he's gonna burn him, but instead he's gonna burn the throne, and that's exactly what happened. Like I literally was narrating what's about to happen moments before.
I knew the throne was gonna get burned eventually, but like I also thought he would have done it to Jon, and then everybody would have been like, oh, Jon didn't get burned by Dragonfire because he's a Targaryen.
So here's the thing: Targaryens can't survive Dragonfire. That was a very weird little magic thing that happened specifically to Danny.
Okay.
Like it's not like they can't get burned. They totally can. This was just a like.
Oh, I
Yeah, because the one dude got the gold, like molten gold poured on.
So here's
Yeah,
the thing.
but I feel like it's
There's
given
this
a
little
fire.
this like witch lady called Mary Mazduri, I think is her name, and she essentially like Drogon. So Khal Drogo gets like fucked up and he's gonna die.
I remember
And,
that bit.
Yeah. So she makes this pact, and it's part of that. It's like. You're gonna fuck you, like you're gonna suffer, like I
it
can
wasn't
bring him
super
back to
well
life.
explained in the
Right.
series. It didn't really need to be explained.
And so when she finally realized, like, he's like a sad shell of a person, and she's gonna have to kill him. She's gonna put him in the fire, and she wants to be with him. So she's just gonna take her dragon eggs and just go lay in there and die. And part of, I guess, like Mary Mazdur's curse or whatever was that instead of that, she lives, or the dragon's magic fucking helps her. I don't know. It's not explained very well, but it was a very much a like. Danny specific scenario.
Either way, it would have made way more sense if Drogon tried to burn Jon and the throne burns consequently. Like, it's just there and it gets burned as Jon is burning.
Yeah.
It would have made way more sense logically as opposed to Drogon looking at him and then just going, she's got a knife in her. I'm going to kill the thing made of knives.
I think it was more of a like.
I hate knives.
Drogon looks at him, but he knows Jon now, and Jon approves of him. So it's also tied to this like he's a Targaryen thing. So like it's like the dragon approves of him a little bit, but the dragon's dealing with grief, and it's just gonna burn something, and it just happened to be the throne that was right there. I don't know. Overall,
Somehow it's the only thing that survived.
yeah,
Like-
the show's been a roller coaster for me, like overall, because like as a humongous fan of the books, like I know going into like when it's adapted to a different type of media, like I try and make myself be like, don't just keep being like, don't be that book elitist asshole. But they just like there are times when I'm like I really enjoyed the show and I'm super excited that it's introduced a lot of people to this franchise. There are other times where they just make such drastically contradictory decisions to like character development that as the way they are in the books that it just turns me off. So like I don't know, it's been a back and forth ride. I'm glad I watched it, but I gave up because George R.R. Martin takes so long to write, dude. I waited 9 years for Dance of Dragons or whatever, and like Winds of Winter is gonna take, I don't know, like so I just
one
gave
more
up.
after that,
watched
right?
the show. Oh yeah, I think there's another, and I was like,
I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes both of them at the same time. Like,
yeah, it'd be great. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm glad the show at least exists because I think it might be the only way I got some sort of resolution.
I don't know.
But
It's
it made a
possible
very
we might
soft
hear like
ending.
some announcement that's like, "Oh, Winds of Winter is coming out right now."
That's what I'm
yeah, I
hoping
wouldn't
for.
be surprised if they had a deal where it's like, hey, we're gonna pay you to not release the books because we want to finish the show first. That way, there's not this like, and it's probably works out best for him if he like, oh, there's no more show. But
go
there's
read the books.
books.
I did.
It does that speculation, but it does actually kind of make sense
Yeah,
if they're
for
going
sure.
in different directions to have
I
them
mean,
not release books while
yeah.
it's going on
Yeah.
because that's
And then
technically
it's
competition.
kind of like a non-compete clause with his own
Yep.
franchise and
Yeah.
property because they do skew from each other. So it's like it kind of makes
And
sense.
also,
So
he
maybe
gets
we'll
a
see
great
more.
test because if they do something with the show that he might have been thinking about doing and everyone fucking hated it, he can probably
Well,
be
yeah,
like,
because now it's like for once it's like the
Not
show
doing that.
gets to influence the books rather than
this
the
was
other
the
way
secret
around.
plan all along. It's just
Quite
so that he
genius.
can have the best possible ending.
Yeah.
anyway, I'll rant a bit in sudden death about some of the big contradictory things.
I
to do with
fucking hate how
characters.
Bran at the end's like, he's like, anyone seen the dragon? And then they're like, saw him a ways away. He's like, oh, maybe I can find him. I'm like, what the fuck? You keep alluding to your stupid warg shit.
warged
and it's
into
like,
a dragon.
You can fucking, like, we
Never.
were all waiting for that. That was like the hard nut moment of the whole goddamn show.
Or
and they
Ghost.
just never, yeah.
Or
they
Nymeria
never
with her wolf
fucking-
army.
They never
That's
fucking
what I was
do
hoping
it.
for.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Super underutilized.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, he does it like once to do a look around with some fucking birds.
For some reason, he can't. He's just really attached to those birds.
He
Like,
can
if you
also
can
he
do
can
it
also
with,
look through
like-
every weirwood tree, by the way.
Okay.
So
Is that established in the show?
I don't know if they do it in the show.
I
I don't think
but
so.
Still, like,
And I can't necessarily judge against something that wasn't introduced in the show. Like I know the Valonqar prophecy is not a thing in the show, so I can't really be like they didn't fulfill the prophecy, blah blah blah, because it wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the prince that was promised, I think, was in the show. So it's a little weird that didn't actually mean anything.
Listen, in the books, there's another heir to a very important house. I'm trying to not spoil it for them. There's a horn that can control dragons. The characters are way better. Like, go read the book.
Greyjoy has like an entire set of Valyrian
He's
steel
so
armor, right?
fucking cool in the books. It was funny because Ben and I had this talk, and I was going off about like how I hate what they did to Euron. And so then Ben went and looked it up and was like, "He's so fucking cool." And I was like,
He's
"Yeah,
like a fucking badass magical god wanting, or he's a magical pirate badass who wants to be a fucking god. Awesome. Like the Euron in the show is like a frat boy.
He's like straight out of One Piece in the book.
Yeah. He's basically a One Piece character. It's really cool. I just read the Wikipedia article and I was like, fuck yeah, I want this character in the show, but he wasn't. Anyway, we went a little over time, but we will continue talking about this in Sudden Death. If you're a first member, we'd love to have you watch that and let us know what you think about the series and the finale. Again, overall, I still think it's worth watching this show.
Sure, yeah,
it was
yeah,
a
it's a great-
phenomenal
It's a great
series, and it's just impressive seeing what it did. There were certain moments watching this finale, well, not this episode specifically, but the last couple episodes where it kind of feels like this is a feature film. Like the quality of the production is just so impressive. And so thinking about this as a TV show and the fact that we've gotten to this point where we can have fucking dragon battles on TV is crazy. Like 10 years ago, this would have never been a thing.
Right.
People, you'd say to somebody like that this would exist and everybody would laugh at you.
Okay.
But it's a thing. It happened. And it probably, hopefully, will continue to happen, and TV will continue to grow as it evolves into this internet thing.
When you have the numbers, like they had like 17 million people watch.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like insane. Like you can spend millions of dollars an episode when you have that audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So hopefully there's a new Game of Thrones in the future.
They're doing spin-off, but
Well,
you're talking
by
about the
Game of
next
Thrones,
property.
I mean
Yes.
like in spirit, not in terms of an actual
Dark
prequel.
Instruments seems like that might be the next
It
one.
looks like it will.
They're trying for it.
We'll see what happens. Maybe they can get Sanderson. Though I know there's a lot of rights to Sanderson stuff it's been muddled. Anyway, hey, you know what you can do? You can go read the books and you can start it with that free Audible credit.
Quick
All
toothbrush too. Brush them teeth.
Brush your
'cause
teeth while you're
No
listening.
matter what, you need to brush your teeth.
Because they go so well together. Because you can't. It's hard to read and brush your teeth, but you can listen.
Oh shit.
Oh, totally
There's
works.
the
All right.
Bye.
All right, thanks for joining us, guys. See you next week. And again, hashtag Death Metal Cast. Let us know who wins between Danny Phantom and Jake Long. All right, see you guys. Be awesome.